No matter what I set my mind to, I want to be the number one. I want to make sure that I go there and become the best at what I do. If it means that the money isn't great, well, I don't really care. Like for me, I get more of a rush from the idea of writing something that works than kind of going, yay, money. Money's great. I love money, but I'm not like obsessed with it.
Hello and welcome to the Who's Going to Stop Me podcast. Join us on an exciting journey to the depths of the human mind and soul of those who have been successful, of those who have been maybe where you want to go. I promise you one thing and one thing only by listening to this podcast, and that is a life that is more full, that is more exciting, and that will bring you more fulfillment. This episode features Adil Amarsi. He's generated over $500 million in sales for his clients. He is an artist entrepreneur whose main skill set is copywriting. He teaches us the art of writing, the core building blocks of what to write on your website to generate more sales. We look at how to tease out of you your story so that your audience resonates with that. We talk about headlines to create impact. We talk about productivity. We talk about and connect on martial arts as well, and why it's so important to have discipline in your life. Adil is one of the best copywriters in the world right now. Even though he suffers from dyslexia and ADHD, he tells us how he overcomes adversity in his life to achieve and accomplish his goals. At a minimum, he charges $10,000 per sales page, and that ranges all the way up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we are learning tremendously useful information in this podcast. So I hope you enjoy it. As always, grab a coffee, get moving, get walking, and enjoy. You're considered one of the best copywriters around. You've generated over 500 million. Yes, that's 500 million. That's a crazy huge figure. It's $500 million. That's crazy.
Pretty much.
In confirmed sales for your clients. You live in the heart of London with 2 Bengal cats.
I actually know. I just moved out of central London, literally about a couple of weeks ago.
Okay. Whereabouts are you living?
Wow. I should really update that. No, I still live in London, but I just live like slightly out of central. So like I think zone 3. Zone 4 is where I live. So zone 3 and 4. So I'm right near Stratford.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. I used to live in Bethnal Green, so I know that kind of area well.
Don't even. I'm in Bethnal Green every morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my gym's there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I actually have just come from training. I got back home maybe 30 minutes ago. I'm also a fellow Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu would you call it a practitioner? Fighter sounds too extreme to me.
I'd say practitioner's about right.
Yeah. That's balancing that right line.
Cool. You know we're going to have to talk about that too. You know?
I know. I'm so tempted just to jump right into the jiu-jitsu stuff. But people are going to just be like, oh man, these guys. Is this an MMA podcast or what are they talking about?
I actually have one of those, so we should definitely do an episode on that in future.
Oh, for sure. So actually, I interviewed Rory McDonald a couple of weeks ago on this show.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Just after his fight with John Fitch. Like he made some kind of mysterious comments there. But anyway, see, we're already getting off topic here. But we'll jump into the jiu-jitsu because I know you're super passionate about it as well. So you're one of the copywriting, okay? Copywriting. You're, a phenomenal copywriter, generated hundreds of millions of dollars in sales for your clients. I guess for people listening to this podcast who are business owners, I really want to start at a grassroots level. Some people may not even be aware. I know that I wasn't super aware of this whole idea of copywriting. I thought you just kind of be honest and put what you think on your website, and then hopefully people will want to buy from you. What is good copy? Why is it important to have good copy? How would you define that?
See, having good copy is the equivalent of having a really good salesman. versus having someone that kind of is like, yeah, and you know, you should really buy my product, or it does this amazing thing. Or if you get asked, okay, what does this thing do? Actually, you know what? Here's the difference between good copywriting and terrible copywriting. I'll equate it in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because it's so much easier to explain from our perspective, but also uh, if you physically think about it, it's easier to do. Or even fighting. Let's just equate fighting. A good copywriter is, especially a pro level one, that they're like fighting in the top organization. They're on their journey up. They're making their clients a ton of money. And what that means is they know how to throw their jabs. They know how to time their takedowns. They know how to do the submissions. They know how to get out of there. They know enough about what they need to do in order to be dangerous and actually make money. And when you're not a copywriter or don't know anything about copy, you're either the really tough kid in school or on the street that thinks they can take on anyone. It's basically someone mouthing off to you trying to throw a punch, but they're throwing windmill punches. They just happen to throw very hard windmill punches versus someone that knows how to throw a jab or, you know, like a right cross to the jaw. They know how to hit someone hard. Huge difference. That's how I equate it to. Knowing good copy is the equivalent of being a good fighter. So yeah.
That's a cool analogy. That's
And
a cool analogy.
if you guys want a simpler analogy from that, I'll go one step further. I'll say it's essentially, as Gary Halbert said, it's a salesman in print, meaning you can knock on 100 doors and talk to 100 people. I guarantee you in some of those moments you'll feel great, some of those moments you'll feel terrible. This is actually going to help you completely get rid of that. So you just always, like, your thing always sells.
So in essence, for anyone that has any kind of business where, you know, you're trying to give any sort of value through a product or service, you really need to be thinking about your copy. Right?
Exactly.
It's just like how you'd present yourself in a meeting, but you know, it's in writing form. And that's a cool analogy about the fighting. I haven't thought about that before. It reminded me of something funny.
Okay.
It's just I know you like humor, so I'm going to try and make this funny. But it reminds me of something I heard, that all guys apparently think they're great at two things. One is fighting and one is sex. Mm-hmm. Right? It's kind of like this idea that everyone thinks, like, even without training, like in our minds, we're like, you know what, I could probably, you know, take that person in a fight. And then you actually start training martial arts or something, and you're like, oh, actually, I know nothing. Yeah. And you get like pulverized in your first session, and you're like, oh, holy cow, like I'm really weak or whatever. Cool. Okay, so copy is super important. You're one of the best copywriters out there, so I'm going to be picking your brains as much as possible and trying to deliver as much value as I can to people who are listening. One thing I noticed was, and people might be shocked about this if you're not really super close to the industry, but people pay you, you know, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 plus dollars to write sales pages for them. Yeah. So essentially write the copy on their websites. Yep. And obviously you've delivered huge value for them. So, you sell their products millions, tens of millions of pounds per product, right? Per sales page. So that to them isn't a lot of money to invest. One challenge I think certain business owners have is that ability to ask for that much money, even if they know they're delivering that much value. How do you do that? How do you have the confidence to say, you know what, I'll charge the X amount?
I will say this much. I'm actually quite terrible at doing that all the time. Like, sometimes if I really want to work with someone, I'll drop my price a little bit if I want to work with them just to get them on board. But then we have a different structure of a deal. It means I take more money on the back end. It means I get paid at a higher percentage. But the way of actually, like, if you're having trouble doing that with confidence, I always refer to what Dan Kennedy taught me. And that was, have more confidence to ask for the money, and that's why you'll do it. And the way that you get confidence, and this is something I figured out, is by repetition. And the way that you repetitively do it is stand in front of the mirror before you got your sales call and just start pitching the number, going $10,000, $15,000, 100 grand. It's going to be 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 100 grand. And you just say that for about 10 minutes until it's mentally stuck in your head. When they go, so how much does this cost you? Like 100 grand. but your entire build up to it is like, it's 100 grand, but here's the value you receive. So when I'm like, I'll give you an example. Later today, I actually have a sales call with a client who wants me to run webinars for them. I think it's like 3 webinars a month. And I'm confidently fine to say $45,000 a month because they want to run different webinars. But if they're like, hey, 45 grand is, because that's a huge sticking number to someone to say it so blatantly and so blasé. The way that you build it up is just saying, look, okay, based on everything I've seen, this is how much money I can projectedly make you based on my current results on average. So the cost is actually going to cost $45,000 up front for me to do this. By the time they're completed, you'll have 3 separate webinars that basically come out that each produce $45,000 each. So for a one-time $45,000 investment, you've tripled your profits. Just simply doing this. And that's on the first run. Now, if you run these on Evergreen, you've now got those coming in month and month out for you. So over the projected course of 1 year, or let's just say you launch it twice. You do 2 launches in a year with the same copy that I wrote for you. The initial cost you $45,000 as an investment. You made back $135,000 with a $90,000 product, $90,000 profit on the front end. Then you go ahead and run the webinar again. This time you made 135 grand in pure profit. So all in all, you've made over $200,000 on a $45,000 investment. And they're like, oh, okay. I'm like, that's on the low end. If you did it correctly, because most of the people that hire me to write webinars, they've got products that are worth anywhere between $500 to $2,000 to $10,000. If it's a $1,000 product, tell them they're going to make 45 grand is not that big of a deal. If they run everything the way that I tell them to, they're looking at doing at least $100,000 each. So now the game changes. If I've asked for 45 and they do 300,000 on the first launch, and they've paid me, and their profit on that is 255,000, and then their second payout is 300,000, they made over $500,000 on a one-time investment. So I pitch it in their benefit. That's actually all it is. Pitch it in their benefit. If it's someone I want to work with, I'll find a way around. I'm like, hey, I get the 45,000 might be a huge number for you. So here's the way that we can work around this. What if I went ahead and did it this way? So instead of doing 45,000 up front, can you do 20,000? They're like, yeah. I was like, we'll do 20,000 now and 25,000 after I deliver and you've made your first sale. Like after you've made back your $45,000 from my work on the webinar, you pay me the remaining 25. I'm not going to say no to that. There's always a way around.
Absolutely. So you're kind of, as you said, you're showing them the return, right? You're showing them the return on their investment and the benefit to them. And then it's a matter of actually just practicing in front of the mirror if you feel like it's a big number and just repeating it, because it's mighty awkward if you haven't. And I've done this with when I've pitched to clients before and I'm like, oh my God, I haven't said this number out loud yet. And I'm about to say it to the client for the first time and I'm pitching them and you're just kind of like, would it be okay if I charge you? It sounds like super weak. So no, that's really cool. What kind of, obviously you're very accomplished in what you do. What kind of special deals do you do with people then? Like you said that sometimes you accommodate for certain people. Is that just certain companies or certain brands you're looking to work with?
It's what I'm most like. If I get on with a person and I know I can really help them make a lot of money, then I'll accommodate it. And the way that I usually do that with one of my clients, I charge them $3,000 for a single sales letter, which I usually charge $15,000 for. But I charge them $3,000. And it's 15 grand plus percentage. So 15 grand plus 15% of gross is what they would get for that package. For that same package, I charge them $3,000, but 25% of equity, 25% of launch and 10% of equity. And they're like, cool.
Yeah, that sounds like a very good deal.
We went on to do a $250,000 launch for them. So it was a good payout for me.
And is there any particular, now that we're on this kind of topic of special deals, is there any niches that really interest you that you're like, oh, I just love kind of writing about that or selling products and that? No,
I mean, it's all the same to me. It's human psychology. What I get off on is the ability to look at it and just smile and go, oh, I know what I'm going to do here, and just doing it. Just makes me so happy.
I think that's probably a nice kind of segue into your story and maybe how you actually figured out this writing and copywriting makes you happy. How did that journey happen? I know it's been a long journey. What's your story? How did you get into copywriting, and how did you know this was the thing for you?
It's kind of weird. I actually didn't know this was the thing for me. Like it was really, really, really by happenstance and kind of random. So the long and short, the long version, really, honestly, is that when I was about I was 5 years old, and yeah, I was 5 years old. My dad was basically paralyzed, or was basically paralyzed from the waist down. I think it was four, it was five, basically before 7. So for about 2 years, so about 5 till 7 years old, my dad's paralyzed from the waist down, and he can't really walk. My dad loved 3 TV shows, and you would probably remember this as well, being from the UK. There's a show called Countdown. My dad loved Countdown, absolutely loved it. And before that, there used to be a show called 15 to 1, which they don't show anymore, but it was a trivia show. And my dad would love watching these two shows, and then immediately he'd love to spend about 2 hours a day, 6 days a week for 2 years, watching Billy Mays pitch on the Home Shopping Channel. Now, for the people that don't know this, your unconscious mind is the only thing that's there to absorb information until you're 7 years old. So everything that you become is actually formed in those first 7 years. So in that time, I started taking on how to sell in my brain from this whole aspect because my dad was making me watch this stuff. And the reason he made me watch it was because I wanted to watch TV afterwards, and I thought the best way to do it, sit down and watch TV with dad, so my big sister couldn't beat the shit out of me and steal the remote, because Cartoon Network versus Nickelodeon was a thing. And then, like, I was 12 years old. My parents were told by my teachers that your son's smart, but he's very, very slow at writing. Um, my dad at this point worked. He was back and his legs were working, and he just said, "Hey, come to the offices, and I just want you to write stories every day for us. Like, I don't care what it's about, just write a new story. Just get into that habit of writing." So I started writing stories every day. And prior to this, my dream was to be a cartoonist. I loved cartoons. I loved telling stories, always have done. And what I did was I essentially sat down and I started writing one story a day. Shortly after my parents separated, they got back together 2 years later. But in that 2 year period, like, my school commute went from about 30 minutes on average there and back to 2 hours a day. So it'd be an hour bus ride there and an hour bus ride back. And I was a bit of a loner of a kid, so I always was quite quiet. So I'd just sit there and I'd start writing and doodling and writing stories whenever I was on the bus, and it just grew from there. I used to give them to my dad. When I was 18 years old, I went to network marketing, and then shortly after that, I think shortly after, I went to a seminar. My dad, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and one of the entrepreneurs that actually said, "Hey, um, what are you good at?" And I said, "I'm terrible at getting traffic, but I'm absolutely brilliant at getting conversions." I had like 10 people read my blog post, and I had 7 of them pay me money. I kind of say that. It was more or less, I said that, well, I had 10 people read my blog post. I had 7 people pay me. I'm not that great at it, but I think I can be better. And my friend was like, "Dude, that's fucking amazing." Excuse my language. They were like, "That's absolutely amazing." So I just decided to, like, run with it. And they were like, "You'd get paid tens of thousands of dollars for the skills that you have." So I was like, "Cool." And that's basically how I began my career. It was just all by being told that I could do this.
That's super interesting.
Ooh, there is one
It's
thing.
really interesting.
There is one thing I did miss out. Like, when I told my dad that I was going to be a copywriter, he actually pulled down a bunch of old ads he had upstairs in the attic, and he told me to read them. The funny thing is, he actually used to take my old stories, give them to his copywriters, and have them basically model their copy based on the work that I wrote. And my dad was like, "Yeah, this is exactly what we did for a long time. So you've been doing this since you were 12." Which is why when I tell people I've been writing ads since I was 12 years old, that's what I mean. I went pro at 18.
You had like lots of unconscious influence through like the shopping channels that kind of showed you that, okay, this is the language they use in selling, and then you just wrote a lot, so you actually practiced a lot of writing. And wow, like, your dad definitely showed you a lot of encouragement there, pulling those old ads down. That's pretty cool.
It is, to a degree. Like, my dad and I had a disagreement for a really long time about the career path I was on, but now we get on about it. Like, for a while, he was very much against me going down this path.
Is that just because it was not as developed as it is now? What?
Oh, no, it was nowhere near
What was
developed.
that?
I mean, I'm a guy that has dyslexia and ADD. I mean, so I'm a writer, and I have two of the things that people would never associate with being a good writer.
Learned the skills. You went, you were doing this from an early age, but kind of almost prodigy-esque, right? Like you were kind of naturally writing a lot. What was the process like of, working with your first client, your first paying client, where you got them huge results? Was that some sort of validation, or did you always kind of know that, okay,
Oh God, no! I still doubt myself to this day. Like, I have days where I'm a guy that's done over 500 million in sales for his clients, and I still wonder whether or not I know what I'm doing. Yeah, so that'll never go, and I don't ever want it to go because it keeps me sharp and it keeps me on edge. And I actually learned a long time ago that David Ogilvy, probably one of the greatest ad men of all time, he himself was always nervous whenever he handed things in. So I was like, damn, if he did, then maybe I'm not so different. Um, so what ended up happening was like my first paying client gave me they only paid me $500 to write a full funnel for them, and I did it in 23 hours, like the whole thing. And I started building up because at the time I didn't know that I was able to do anything. I remember getting one of my clients that I wrote my first $1 million ad at 19 years old, and I was like, wow, I only charged them like £500 for this. How do I charge more? And then I got my first big paying client that paid me £3,000 and 3% of the first week of sales. I did like 150. I did £3.5 million for them, and my payout I think was like £80,000 at the time, which was insane for a 19-year-old. And then from there, I've had my ups and downs. Like, I work with clients. I care more about honing my craft than getting paid. And that sounds really dumb to some people, but to me, that's how I always look at it. Is if I can be the best at what I do, I really only just need enough to make sure that I can live and do the things I enjoy.
why would you say that is, that you have that mindset of like, money isn't super important to me, it's more about becoming the best at that I can be at copywriting?
I think it's because I'm very competitive. Like, I'm naturally competitive. So I always want to be the best. No matter what I set my mind to, I want to be the number one. I want to make sure that I go there and become the best at what I do. If it means that the money isn't great, well, I don't really care. Like, for me, I get more of a rush from the idea of writing something that works than kind of going, yay, money. Money's great. I love money, but I'm not like obsessed with it.
Okay, that makes complete sense. I know what that's like, and obviously honing your craft and the ability. I mean, you are definitely up there in terms of copywriters. If one of the, in terms of producing results, so that makes a lot of sense. So in terms of copy specific advice for people, let's say, I mean, I'm targeting mostly people who are relatively new at writing copy. What would you say are the most important elements of, say, a good sales page, or just having good copy on a page?
Okay, I actually have a entire outline that I use for this. It's a course I actually teach, believe it or not. But I'll give you guys a quick outline of just the basis. So a good sales letter has to have the following elements. These are the key ingredients. The course actually breaks them down into a structure, but these are the core building blocks. So you definitely need to have um, a good offer, have something people actually want to buy. B, have a good headline that gets people to actually listen and engage. Uh, the third thing is make sure you have a great story. Like, tell your story of how you got to what you're doing and why you're selling what you're selling. The fourth thing, make sure there is a reason why. There has to be a reason why people give a damn. If they don't give a damn, they will not give you money. Like, that is the first thing ever, is make sure people give a damn to buy the good thing that you're selling. And finally, don't screw around on the close. Ask for the sale. Always ask for the sale in the sales letter. A lot of people do that thing where they're like, oh, I don't know if they'll say yes. Well, ask. Give them direction. And this is kind of one of my own Adilisms more than anything else, if you will. One of the key things that really separates the wheat from the chaff in terms of copywriting for me is how they ask for the sale. Specifically, are you removing fear or are you adding fear? If you're removing fear, you will see a higher conversion rate. If you are adding fear, you're going to have people act from fear. Yes, you will make money in the front end, but you will lose that customer in the long run. So that's kind of like the ideas that I would actually impart on you. If you want me to get a little bit more specific, I'll go ahead and do that for sure.
Yeah, let's talk. I really like that last point that you made actually about asking for the sale and are you removing fear or are you adding fear? That's quite a nuanced point. I haven't heard a lot about that. Could you go a little bit deeper into that? Maybe give some examples.
So for sure, I'll give you guys a really good example. So let me ask you, give me a product like to sell. Just give me something to
Okay,
sell as an idea to convince
sure.
someone.
Let's say a yoga program.
Okay, cool. So with a lot of yoga people, how would you find fear in a yoga program? Well, you can sell it as, you know that your body's inflexible, but it doesn't have to be, and sitting down can cause your posture to be painful. So doing yoga can really help you and fix all of this, yada yada yada. That's all pain. That's fine. You can run with that. Me personally, I'd go with yoga made me feel amazing. This is my story. This is how yoga helped benefit me. I was stiff as a rock. Now I'm flexible. I have this amazing posture. My life feels good. In fact, people don't understand that having great posture actually changes the outlook of your life, and it did for me. And now I want to help other people have that same effect. That's basically the crux of the story. I'm kind of removing fear from the get-go by relating to them, letting them know who I am, letting them know what I do, my story, my journey, how I got there. Everything is taken care of. The next steps, which are quite powerful, when I get to the close, a lot of people do this thing where they are they're like, click the order button and buy my product. How much fear is around that? If I click that button, I don't know what page I'm going to go on. Um, so
Right.
yeah, you got to remove that.
And how would you do that in that example?
Well, hold on, give me a second. I'm mentally, I'm like preparing. It's like, should I say this? Yeah. So the way that you would do it is quite simple. You tell them what happens next. So the way I have a patent in close that's one of my own. It's one of an adult close that anyone that sees it knows that I either wrote the letter or influenced the person to write it. And that is, here's what you do next. And I go, like John Carlton taught me that, but what I say next is very much me. It's, here's what you do next. Once you click the order button, you'll be taken to a secure checkout page where all you do is complete your order or enter enter your regular details and complete your investment. Today, once you've done so, you'll receive an invoice within 15 minutes, and then you'll be able to get instant access to name of product today. You'll also you'll also have your logins, and from there, within 15 minutes, you'll be set and ready to use, ready to start stretching out your body and have an amazing posture in your life. So you're giving them a time limit. You're
Oh,
removing a
okay.
lot of the fear. You're telling them exactly what they're going to receive. You're also telling them where the invoice is going to go. This takes care of everything
Do you see that mistake a lot?
all the
People
time.
just kind of writing, click here to order,
All the
and
time. I see it with pro copywriters. I see it with amateurs. I see it with Facebook ad people. I see it everywhere. So many people don't follow the actual thing of what works.
that's really interesting. I love that tip. So yeah, as you said, don't screw around on the close. Think about, are you removing fear? Are you adding fear? Let's talk about the headline, because a
Yep.
lot of people say, oh, the most important thing is the headline in copy. Do you agree with that?
Agreed. Yep. Definitely agree with that. Yep.
What's your kind of powerful tips there for a great headline?
Okay, so I'm going to give you guys the simplest way of coming up with a headline ever. All right, you ready for this? There's a formulaic process I use that if I can't figure it out, I basically start off from there. I start off going backward. I start off with these three and then I develop. And they are, it's an if-then headline, which is, if you're inflexible as a rock and have no range of motion and in constant pain, then read every word below. If then. Or I use a discover, which is discover how I went from being completely inflexible as a rock to having more mobility, great posture, and having a positive outlook in life in just 30 days. The last one is a revealed or an uncover. So you can play around with those. Revealed, how you can begin stretching your body out from somewhere, stretching your body out, becoming more flexible, having better posture, and feeling great about your life. Subheadline, which feeds into it, because if you follow these three formulas, you can mix and match them. So you can have an if-then headline to a discover subheadline, or a revealed headline to a discover subheadline, or a revealed headline to an if-then, or a discover to an if-then. You can mix and match as much as you want, or an if-then to a revealed. So I'll give an example of this that's really, really powerful. So you have the headline, then the subhead. The headline, let's just say, uncover how you can become more flexible, have great posture, and change the outlook of your life even if you feel as stiff as a rock, um, or if you're as inflexible as a rock. That's your headline, uncover. And then the if then would from there would be, actually wouldn't be an if then, I'd use a discover. The discover would be, discover in the next 15 minutes, or discover how in this letter I will reveal to you the exact secrets I used to do this for my body and more. Or I'd say, discover how I went through this exact same journey and how my clients have done so and how I can do the same for you. And then just start off the copy with the opening paragraph. And then I'd go into the introduction. So you've built enough intrigue to begin with.
Brilliant. And is there any maybe like big issues or like mistakes you see people making in headlines that grinds your gears, or like maybe you've done some testing and you've seen that people writing this
The word
in
learn.
the word
The
learn.
word learn. Everywhere in copy, I hate people using that. It really annoys me. Like, the word learn is not a good word to use anywhere in your sales copy. It just turns people off so quickly. So you want to use something like discover, uncover, revealed. Those are all good words to change.
And is that just because learn is almost mental effort? They got to put effort into doing that task then?
On a base level, yes, but if you look at who you're selling to, most people that are buying stuff online usually are doing things for themselves in the sense that they're quite independent and they don't like traditional schooling.
So that learn almost like brings them back to school or something.
To school and relives that pain, and we always try and move away from pain and run towards pleasure. So if you're telling someone they're about to learn something, what you're saying is you're about to feel pain.
That makes a lot. I'm thinking back now to some of the things I've written recently. I've definitely used the word learn, but I'm sure many people have as well. And I'm sure my girlfriend is going to love this episode as well, because she's just launching her yoga business as well. So she's going to be like,
so that's what you're trying to sneak in, like a little yoga thing, right? I see what you're doing there.
No, actually,
but if she wants to actually,
yeah, sorry, go on. No, go on.
No, you're saying.
No,
I was just gonna say, like,
sorry.
Okay, you first. This is such a British thing, by the way, so I'll let you go first.
We're having these. All right. No, I was just going to say, because my businesses would be like dating related or something else, right? So I was like, you know what? Let me do it for someone else. And then yoga was the first thing that popped into my head. So it wasn't.
Okay, so yeah, it was subconsciously linked there, but we'll go with it. So I'll give you another one that's really good for yoga for her. If you go to... if you go through the story of how she became a yoga instructor and why she became a yoga instructor and a yoga teacher, like what was it that drove her, that will give you more leverage to what works for you and your audience than if you basically sat down and tried to sell someone something. You got to give them the reasons why you did it so they can actually follow suit.
Do you have an example? Because that's, that formula you gave us was like, make sure you got a great story. Do you have maybe an example? You can take another niche as well.
Oh, no, I was going to say, like, a really easy... This is a universal thing that I do. Whenever I get clients to go through their stories with me, the first thing that we do is I go with... I ask them what is their biggest failure in what they're trying to do. So if you're doing yoga, what was your biggest failure in trying to understand how to do yoga? And if they're like, oh, it was this. I'm like, okay. If that's your... If your biggest failure is being as stiff as a rock or stiff as a board, you really don't know how to move, like everything hurt and your back was killing you and you were overweight and you had bad posture and you were starting to create sciatic pains in your back and problems, that was your biggest problem, and you've tried yoga before and you fell down, you were bored shitless, excuse my language, you didn't like what you were doing, that's a failure. So how did you go from that failure to your greatest victory? And your greatest victory could be, to date in relation to that, could be when I figured out how to actually create yoga poses that worked for me, that actually didn't keep me bored. And I found as I went through this, I was helping more people have these same experiences. Thus, it became better for me to understand how these yoga poses worked. And once I understood them, this is the victory I have. Now, the third step is linking, how did you go from that defeat to understand this yoga pose that was amazing for you, that really didn't hurt you and made you feel engaged? And then you detail that outline. And now you have the crux of your story. And that's basically it.
So yeah, looking at your biggest failings, your greatest victory, and then detail, and then understanding how you went from that defeat to understanding, say, some solution, and then you kind of detail the story. Is that a kind of good summary?
Yep.
Okay, great. And you said that make sure there is a reason why, like the why. What are some like powerful whys or examples of whys? Is that like a more deeper emotional thing, or is that superficial?
Both. I mean, you need to give them a reason why to buy. So I'll give you an idea. Why would someone want to increase their dating? Like, why would they want to get more dates?
Well, they might be lonely. They might want companionship. They might want to be seen with a beautiful woman on their arm. They might want sex, right?
Yeah, so they have all these different drivers. Now, let's look at the reason why that someone would actually come to you. So let's say you had a product on texting, like how to text women to start conversations or text guys to start conversations. So it's back and forth thing. What you can do is you can actually go into the whole reason why to it of this is the reason why I do the reason why this works is because I went through this journey myself, and it's all part of the journey in the story because you discover your reason why in there. Um, the reason I actually started to the reason I developed this program was because I always swore to myself that if I ever figured out how to text the opposite sex or the same sex in a way that would always get responses and show my best personality and bring out the best in me, then I would want other people to have that same experience. So what I did was I created that same product right now to help you have that same result. So the reason why I do this is because I want to make sure that you don't go through the same things I went through. So basically, that's how you play leader. Another way that you can actually slice it is the reason why I teach copywriting, and actually I'm very, very passionate about it, is because I know how it changed my life. I know exactly, understanding how to use words properly helps change my life and the lives of so many other people and my students that now I obsess over it. So that's a whole different way. Do you see how it's like two different ways of actually doing the reason why?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's multiple, by the
Absolutely.
way. There's multiple. It could even be something as simple as that. The reason why I created this offer was because the reason I'm doing a huge discount on this price point is because I actually need the money.
Being sincere in your story would typically get better results, right, than kind of fabricating one
Never
that's based
fabricate.
off.
Never fabricate, which is why I have that three steps of formula. It's authentically you. I mean, if you're writing under a pen name, like say you're writing for the dating niche and you've never actually had a problem with dating someone, find your perfect audience member, the one that you're selling to, and ask them their story, and then write the copy as if it was them. And the way that you would do this is quite simple. You could use something like, I sat there. What was it? I was. What was it? Pre-headline would be. This is before the headline would be. So it's the left-hand side would be. I was laughing until she kissed him. Dot dot dot. I'm going to share it. I'm going to share with you how a quiet, introverted, quote unquote, beta male went ahead and pulled the hottest girl in the room. And then your subheadline could be, if you've ever sat and wondered how the quiet guys end up getting the hottest girls, or the loudest guys get the hottest girls, then read every word below. And the story would be, I was sat there. Or it could even be sat there. If you know this person, you were talking to them, you saw them demonstrate this skill. Then what you just say, I remember talking to him and I was having a bit of a giggle and laughing. And then all of a sudden, this nerdy little friend of mine decides to go and walk over to the hottest girl in the room. I think that he's going to get blown out. Next thing I know, she's kissing his face off. And my mind is completely blown. In fact, my mind was so blown that I started badgering him to tell me exactly how he did it, not for myself, but just because the psychology behind it was so incredible. Next thing you know, and then that's how you basically go. As I interviewed him, I asked him, and his story was he basically started doing this because he was lonely, he didn't know what to do, so he started understanding and basically developed this entire system, and now the system is his own and unique, and he doesn't like sharing it with anyone else. In fact, I had to twist his arm to actually end up sharing it with us, which is what we've got for you today, introducing, and then you introduce the damn product, and then you sell the damn product. But your entire story is based on someone else because that's what you witnessed.
That's really powerful, and I'm kind of visualizing this and imagining how this would, that's clearly you've written some dating sales letters.
Yep, I've actually started out in the dating market. That was like one of the first ones I started out with. Yeah.
Would you ever find, like, let's take dating again, for example, that kind of like hero's journey is almost, do you ever find that, like lots of people are using that same almost story arc to the point where, like, I don't know, it's less effective?
No, it's you can always use the hero's journey story arc, but it's how you position those pieces that's incredible, because it's the reason that stood the test of time. The place I have problems with is when everyone kind of goes with the whole, I was in so much pain, look at how shitty my life was, and then they like, and then I became a coach, and then I did this, blah 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 blah. It's at that point that becomes annoying. It's when you actually start going, you tell that same story in a much simpler way without having to go through the pain story. That's what I have a problem with, is the pain story. I don't have a problem with people using a hero's journey, but if you use a hero's journey with a pain story and that's all you do, it runs everything down. Start changing it up and giving people the real reason you do what you do, which is you discover inside that 3-step process I gave you early in the show.
Well,
Because it's all unique.
that's awesome.
It is unique because it's your story.
That's powerful. You got me thinking. You got me thinking. That's brilliant. Is there anything else that you'd add to that structure, or any like big mistakes or like key points that you'd add there?
Honestly, people have too shorts of guarantee. Like, the guarantee is always too short. So I understand why they do it, but honestly, the longer the guarantee, the longer that people actually keep stuff. They'll actually keep paying you. They won't actually cash in that guarantee.
So when you say longer, you mean actual length of guarantee, or the length of the copy on the guarantee?
No, the actual length of the guarantee. Like, instead of doing 30 days, do 60 days. I've got a guarantee on my copywriting course. There's a full year. Like, you have 1 full year to go through it.
Okay, that's great. Anything else? So guarantee, longer
That's
guarantee.
kind of the big one. I've actually covered most of the big ones. I'd say the real thing that bugs me is, like, guys, sit down and actually get to know your marketplace, and you'll be surprised what they want to buy from you.
People should know their marketplaces, but is there any kind of key research that you would suggest they do, or any kind of methods or processes that you suggest to clients if they're a little bit weaker on that front?
The best person I could always recommend them to is my buddy Travis Houston, and we discussed this on my show. The way, so I want to give him props where it belongs. Speak to your last 30 to 40 customers and ask them why they bought. And now that'll give you every hook and angle you'll ever need to understand how to sign people up to get them to buy from you.
Before we move on to more about you, I really appreciate this, by the way. This is brilliant. And I've been listening to some of your interviews and your podcast today. So I'm really just trying to get that value from you. So when should someone outsource their copy versus do it themselves?
Always. Honestly.
You should always outsource it.
If you're a good copywriter, yeah. If you're not, then don't. Like, always outsource it. But if you are a good copywriter, if you can sell people, if you are a salesperson, attempt it a couple of times. Start taking copywriting courses. That will help out. But when you understand what basic good copy looks like, start outsourcing it then.
And that process of like kind of learning copy or taking courses, where would you recommend, like, what are the key resources, like either best books to read, best courses to take? I know you've got some great courses.
I'd say my course stands head and feet above everyone else. And that's not an ego thing. That's just simply because I figured out how to get people to understand how to write copy I can take someone that's a complete amateur that barely knows how to string a sentence together and how to sell. Because the thing with copywriting is it doesn't have to be grammatically correct. Oh, that was the other thing that annoys me with people. It's a pet peeve. People write in huge chunk blocks of paragraphs. Don't do that. Write in 1-sentence paragraphs. It makes life way easier for people to read. And if they can read it, they'll buy more. It's a simple rule of thumb. But yeah, so the way that I actually structure my course, thecopywritersroom.com, is if you guys go there, there'll be a code. The code is Archer, ARCHER, like as in Archer, the TV show. You'll get $500 off, so it'll be $495 total, I think. or 497, basically around $500. The reason I've said it that way is because that course is designed to take someone that's completely amateur and take them to a C-class copywriting level inside 5 hours. So inside a 5-hour study, you'll get everything you need to get to a C-level copywriter. And that means that you can charge a decent amount of money, you can write your own copy, and you'll actually have examples to call on. So, and books, because you did ask for books. Really good book that I read on copywriting. I always look at stuff that's old that works still. So any books by Drayton Bird, that's Bird, are brilliant to read. What was it? My Life in Advertising. I think that's Claude Hopkins as well. You have Confessions of an Advertising Man by David Ogilvy, which is brilliant. Any books by Joe Sugarman, like Adweek, the Adweekly book that he wrote. And finally, God, I'd say Just Sell the Damn Thing by my friend Doberman Dan would be a great book as well to read.
Like, that's great. That's more than enough for people to get cracking basically and start learning. That's just tremendous. Thank you for that. What's your process like in terms of your daily rituals? I know you do jiu-jitsu. I know you've got like some other interests. Like, how do you structure your day to be most productive and produce the results that you do?
So the way that I actually structure my day is I'm very grateful I have a really good productivity coach right now. She helps me with everything I do. So I'm actually pulling up my schedule so I can show you guys. I can tell you guys about it. Where the hell is it? There we go. It's a PDF, so I had it as a different document. So between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m., I'm actually in the gym doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Monday to Friday. And by the time I get home, it's around 9:30. So from 9:30-ish till 11 a.m., I eat, I relax, I move my body, I take a bath if I need to take a bath. Basically, I just look after myself in those moments. After that, basically, I start writing from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m., which I usually do either some sort of like content promotion, or I basically walk, or if I'm actually in the zone, I just keep writing. But essentially, I keep writing until about 7-ish. I get some food, and then I have team calls with 2 different companies I work with from 8 till 9:30 p.m. Then I switch off, and then I just read a book, spend time with my cats, relax, and then start up again the next day. Because I only sleep about 4 or 5 hours a night anyway. So, because I don't require a lot of sleep, I can get more done in a day. And by the way, I don't recommend everyone do that. I just have a low tolerance for sleep.
Yeah, I mean, you're going from 6 till 9:30. That's hella productive.
I'm usually up at 5:30. Like I wake up at 5:30 and stretch, and then I start my day by going to the gym.
Would you say that's a natural thing? Like 5:30, it's not a problem?
It's not so much 5:30. I only need about 5.5 hours. Like, I need between 4 to 6 hours worth of sleep every night. So anything more, and it's overkill for me.
That's impressive, especially considering that you're training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu 5 times a week as well. That's pretty impressive that you don't need as much sleep. Me, after a hard roll or something, or like a hard night's training, I'm like, I need to have like a siesta or something.
Yeah, the thing is, I've actually figured out the way that I roll is I'm not exactly the hardest person to roll in the gym. Like, I'll always find a way to just go with it and relax. I don't really care if I'm being tapped out. For me, I'm looking more for can I move my body? Can I apply what I'm doing? And that's kind of like the thing that I look at. Is like, can I have fun with this?
Absolutely. That's the best way to learn as well, right? It's like relax, kind of see, okay, am I in a new position?
Breathe.
What do I do from here? Breathe. All those things are so important versus I've got to win.
Yeah.
I must win this role. I must tap them. It's amazing. Jiu-jitsu is such a like ego humbler.
Yeah, and it reveals what your real character's like as well. So if you're very much like, I must dominate, destroy, and win, you'll basically realize that's how they are in everywhere else in their life. It's a really good way of knowing about someone. If I can get my clients to just roll with me right away, that's the first thing I'd always get them to do.
Why? Reveal whether or not they're going to win, or if they're going to if they're gonna wilt. That's cool. What drew you to martial arts?
So I've always been a huge martial arts fan, and my cats are going crazy. You guys can hear. Sorry about that. Cats being cats. So I actually got drawn to martial arts almost from a very young age. So one of the heroes I had growing up was Arnie. Huge Arnie fan. Main reason is because I watched Conan the Barbarian way too young, and my parents are very, very, very okay with me watching movies that were very, very violent from a very young age. Love you, mum and dad. But my favorite movie then, as a child, was Jean-Claude Van Damme's The Kickboxer. Absolutely loved The Kickboxer. It was one of my favorite movies ever. And I remember, growing up, there was in the 90s, there was a lot of good shows. There was cartoons like Dragon Ball Z that I was a huge fan of. There were shows like Naruto and Bleach as it came into the 2000s. I was growing up then, and there was just a lot of stuff to do with martial arts from from being very young to my teenage years to what I watched. There was cartoons like Double Dragon, for the UK it was Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, but in the US, it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So had a lot of influence from that perspective. And then the reason I actually got into it was because I actually got stabbed when I was 13. So I got stabbed, and my parents were like, dude, you need to train. You need to do something so you don't get killed. So I started doing martial arts as a way of defending myself and really figuring stuff out. And then I just kind of fell in love with it because my first martial art was Muay Thai. I really, really, really obsessed over fighting Thai boxing. I think you're in Thailand right now.
I am indeed.
Yeah, so that was the birth of my sport at the time. So I used to love training Muay Thai. Had a good run of fights in Thai boxing as well. But even then, I was actually fighting more from it was more therapy for me than anything else. And defending myself. And then I had a really bad spinal injury in my early 20s and my late teens. And this is while I was writing. This is actually I had more time to write copy, was because I was actually unable to work. I was unable to work out. So in that time, I basically left London. I moved abroad. And then I moved, then I came back. And then when I came back, I moved to Plymouth, of all places in the UK. Lord knows why. And in that time, I tried to get into Muay Thai again, and then realized I didn't like how they taught Muay Thai at the gym I was at, because they were teaching it wrong, in my opinion. And that's what I said to them. I was like, I think you're teaching this wrong. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, you're just teaching it wrong. Muay Thai shouldn't be done this way. And the long and short of it was I ended up taking one jiu-jitsu class, which is how you always get addicted. I did one class where the guy basically tapped me out 5 times in a couple of minutes. And I wasn't great on the ground, but it's hard to tap me out. And he tapped me out 5 times. And I was like, okay, I need to learn this sport. So I started picking it up. And within 11 months, I was on the mats about 4 or 5 hours every day. So I was training 4 or 5 hours every single day for 5 days a week. So I was enjoying it. And then now it's just I try and get in 5 days a week. Right now I've taken some time off. So I'm kind of on a 3 times a week schedule. In about 2 weeks' time, I'll be back on to 5 days a week again. And that's what basically drew me to it. It's meditation for me as well.
Yeah, there's definitely something really special about martial arts, because it gives you that discipline as well. I feel like once you know how to use your body as a deadly weapon, you are less likely to use it as a deadly weapon and be really kind and gentle to people, as contradictory as that sounds. But I can relate to all those shows. Kickboxer is an amazing movie.
Terrible, but so good.
Terrible, but so good. And it's my actual favorite movie is Karate Kid, the original with Mr. Miyagi. Yep. the
Hmm.
karate sucks in it, right? It's not
Yeah.
good, but it's more the story. It's more the characters and that like cliche mentor that Mr. Miyagi is, and of course like Dragon Ball Z and Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. Like, yeah, they're great, and that's why I started martial arts as well. And funny enough, I started with Thai boxing and kickboxing, so I'm probably better at that than I am at jiu-jitsu. But jiu-jitsu is more technical, right? So it's almost you use your mind. Well, I mean, they're both incredibly technical. It's like comparing apples and oranges, but maybe there's more moves and it takes longer. I don't know, but there's something about it that I really enjoy.
Jiu-jitsu takes a long time because it's you're actually conditioning your muscles to move in a way that's not used to.
One other thing that I love to ask people is about adversity and how they overcome adversity. So obviously you mentioned you were stabbed there, and I know that you mentioned you have ADD and dyslexia. What's your mindset when it comes to dealing with challenging situations where the chips are stacked against you or something difficult has happened? Like you mentioned a spinal injury there.
I kind of thrive in those situations. In all honesty, my whole thing is I'm trying not to let myself get into those situations, but I love it when my back is against the wall. If you put my back against the wall, I am at my best. I just love the whole aspect of fighting from that perspective, pushing and whatever it is. So dealing with adversity has never been an issue. It's dealing with tranquility that has. But for those people who are actually going out and say, "Oh, how do I do this?" I've mentored a lot of people that actually have gone through adversity. Some of the best advice I could ever give to you: um, start by simply doing like if you're stuck in business, start doing things like not feeling sucky. Change the vibrational frequency of what you feel. Yes, that sounds woo woo as all hell, but go for a walk. Go for a walk in nature. Don't take your phone with you. Just go listen. Read a fiction book. Watch a TV show. Do something to relax your mind that brings you joy. Now, when you're in that moment of joy, let your brain relax. Don't think about that client work. Don't think about that shit that you need to do. Don't worry about that. The reason is because your brain will automatically start finding a way for you to find it and attract that thing into your life, and then go for it. If you are knocked on your ass and you have no idea how to get back up again, start with the simplest thing. Number one, speak to a friend. Number two, write out a list of things you're grateful for. And number three, most importantly, take action. Those are the three things I tell you to do right away. You will actually find a huge world of difference from them. If you're losing money and you're hemorrhaging money and you don't know what's going on, like your business is like it was good and now it's terrible, well, guess what? Go back to what was good and find out what was different that made it terrible and go eliminate the thing that's terrible. Only surround yourself with the best of people that believe in you. I mean, have people that challenge you, but make sure they have your interests at heart.
Like
Yeah,
you summed up about 10 self-development books there
in just a
in
short
a
space of
minute,
time.
right? Like I feel like that's a lot of self-development advice is what you just said there. I think it's challenging though as well to when it comes to adversity, and when it comes to actually knowing the right people to have around you, because like emotionally we're invested in people, right, even if they're not good for us. But also it's like, how do you know if like, oh, is this adversity, is this person challenging me for the good? Should I rise up to this challenge and it'll make me better, or is this just a shit person that I want to get out of my life? It's
Exactly.
always hard to know. It's always hard to kind of figure that out. Thank you so much for your time. I've just got one last question for you. You've given so much tremendous value. The audience hopefully can recognize that. What does the future hold for you? Where do you have any goals? Is there anything you're launching, or is it more of the same?
Well, the thing is, I'm consistently working on the Copywriters Room. I'm launching a monthly backend off of it, which only members will see. They'll get a huge discount on basically submitting copy and me critiquing it for them. Long-term play is honestly what I'm working on right now is I've got a book coming out. I'm growing my podcast. I actually have a fighters podcast coming out soon. Um, I hope you don't mind me plugging them both, but the first one is Adil Amarsi Unplugged, and the second is the Colored Commentator. Colored as in US spelling, so no U, so COLORED Commentator. And you guys can find those on adilamarsi.com when they go live.
Perfect. And yeah, I mean, I've been going through your materials and trying to learn as much as I can from all the stuff that's out there. And I can honestly say I've learned tons in this 1 hour. Thank you so much for that. Keep doing what you're doing. And like, I love you've got a refreshing honesty to you as well. And that combined with your kind of intelligence and creative thinking, thank you for that. Thank you for putting out content.
I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
Cool. Perfect. Thank you very much. Head over to adilamarsi.com.
Excellent. That's the one.
Yep. Yeah, perfect. And start following him. Check out his podcast. Highly recommend them. Highly recommend, even though I haven't done them yet, his courses and his material. Thank you so much.
You guys have heard a little bit of it, so could you imagine what I do when I really go into it? So yeah. Thank you. Thanks, man. All right, guys. I will speak to you soon. And thank you for having me, man.
If you enjoyed this episode, please go over to iTunes, Google Play, or Spotify, subscribe to us. If you think we deserve a 5-star rating, then please leave us a rating. We also have exclusive show notes and bonus content over at who'sgoingtostopme.com, so I highly recommend you check that out. For daily lessons and nuggets of advice, please head over to our Instagram @StopMePodcast. Until next time.